Are you ready to find love again? The time is now. But to win it, you gotta get in it. We're embracing love again. Now here's your host, Carnetta Frazier.
Hello, welcome to Embracing Love Again. Are you being loyal to us? What? You have not hit that subscribe button? We need you to hit that subscribe button. This podcast was geared towards widows and widowers, and we have just newly added divorcees. Embracing love again. I am super excited to let you know that we are planning our first meet and greet July 20th. Please go to Eventbrite with Embracing Love Again. Get your ticket. You might meet your soulmate, and they may be in the ATL. So July 20th, please go to Eventbrite and get your ticket. On today, I am super excited about this podcast today. I have my longtime friend, Dr. Sheila Gilbert. I'm telling you, she is an awesome woman, an awesome mother, and a great businesswoman. And she's going to share her awesome knowledge today with us, dealing with living wills and putting things in place. You know, Dr. Gilbert, I hate to say this, but I too have experienced this situation. My husband, untimely death, things was not in place.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing some things, going into the fourth year, trying to put things in place.
Well, you're not alone. I mean, there are tons of people in the same situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because as long as I've known you, why we didn't have this conversation?
No clue. No clue.
But we're having it today. And we're having it for myself, for you. This going to inspire you, motivate you to get rid of procrastination. So Dr. Gilbert, tell us this journey and what we need to do.
Absolutely. So procrastination is really the ticket that we don't want to punch in situations like this.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
So oftentimes we find that we're efficient in our daily lives. We're efficient in our business.
Yes.
Things that we're involved in, all right? At our jobs. We're efficient with those things in our professions. But most of us are inadequate when it comes to keeping records for the things that we need to have in place for either our untimely demise or unfortunately, our untimely death.
Yeah.
And so we need to make sure that we're putting things in place so that our wishes are honored in those cases.
We got to document.
We've got to document. All right? So when we put things in place, we get to determine how much and to who.
Yes.
Right? And that's the key. We want to be able to identify who gets what at the time of our untimely death. All right? We want to make sure that we're keeping records, meticulous records, of all of the things that make up our estate and who we want those things to be divvied out to.
Rich Queen. Diamonds, rubies, cars, or even the biggest house doesn't make you rich. It's the passion in your soul, the fire in your spirit, and all the beautiful wonders that flows within it. Riches come from your heart that pours nothing but gold. Your smile that's colorfully warm, never darkeningly cold. There's value in your calming, most soothing ways, the pep you have in your step, and the anointing that's in your praise. Someone who doesn't have to drink to feel rich, but still raises the bar by walking in full authority, here, there, near, and even far. Doing things without expecting recognition, floating gracefully, not needing to be seen. All these things and more makes you a rich queen. Not just being a pretty face, but knowing and believing that your rich mansion is at the residence of God's place. Valuing yourself and not of material things, being wealthy in Christ, you know exactly what I mean. Being these things and more will forever, and I mean forever, crown you a rich queen.
Right? When we think about final wishes, all right, we don't necessarily embrace that conversation.
That's
That's not
true.
something that
So
we
true.
want to discuss,
Right.
but it's really a part of life.
It
It's part of the
is.
life cycle.
It is.
And so death is going to happen whether we're prepared or not. And so we
Absolutely.
need to make sure that we put things in place that
Yeah.
identify what our final wishes are.
Yes.
There are some myths that people tend to embrace that are not necessarily factual.
Okay.
All right. And so one of those things is, I don't have anything to leave, so why bother?
Right.
All right.
Right.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Everyone has an estate. The question then becomes, how large or how small is the estate? And the second question is whether or not we're willing to protect that.
Good point.
Okay. Our assets are going to be divided. We just want to be the ones who determine who gets what and how
Yes.
it's divided. The question becomes, will we actually be the person who sets things in order and in place for the division, or will we allow the courts to do that?
Yeah.
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 So one of those two situations or scenarios will take place. Either we're going to be the organizer or the courts will be the organizer. All right, especially if we have small children.
Oh,
we want to make
yeah.
sure that we're identifying who takes care of our children
Yes.
in the case of our untimely death, or even if we become incapacitated. All right,
Yes.
we want to make sure that there are things in place for our children, for our spouse.
And that's not something that you want the court
No,
to decide.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we are in control of how things flow in the event that we can't make decisions for ourselves.
Yes.
We want to make sure that we are planning for this. We all shall die, and we have got to plan
Yeah.
to die.
Yeah.
And that's not something that everyone wants to embrace.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about estates.
Okay.
And how we can position ourselves to better put things in place for estate planning. All right.
Okay.
So let's start with the definition of an estate.
Okay.
So really, an estate is just real property. It's real property, and it can be personal property, but it's the totality of the property that we have.
Okay.
All right. Estate planning is just putting things in writing about how you want your personal property and your real property to be divided.
Okay.
So it's very simple.
Okay.
And when
That's
we're
good.
looking at
That's good.
looking at things to include in our assessment of our assets, we want to look at things like who to contact.
Yes.
All right, that's important. You want a list of people to contact in case I'm incapacitated, in case I pass away. Who needs to be notified?
Yes.
All right. We want to look at personal financial information. We want to look at any real estate holdings.
Okay.
Most people don't necessarily know someone else's benefits that they have at work. So we want to identify employer controlled benefits. All right.
Okay.
We want to make sure that any private benefits that we have, many of us have personal life insurance policies outside of our jobs. We want
Right.
to make sure that that's documented as well. One of the key things that we want to make sure we put in place is our final wishes.
Yes,
All right?
absolutely.
Final wishes are
Yes,
important.
it
You know,
is.
some people may want to be buried in a different state. Your loved ones may not know that if you don't communicate that with them.
Or even cremated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that becomes a very
Yeah.
hot topic.
It really is.
You know,
Yeah.
cremation versus traditional burials.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Retirement and pension information. We want to make sure that that information is provided. We want to make sure that if there are any wills, any trusts, any powers of attorney, those things need to be in the hands of those people who will be making decisions after your
Yes.
untimely death. We want to make sure that we have original copies. That's important. All right. We want to make sure that we have living wills. We want to have directives. We want to have healthcare power of attorneys in place. There are so many things that we need in order to pull together an effective plan for our estate.
Now, when you said the healthcare power of attorney,
Yes.
can you explain that?
Absolutely. So a healthcare power of attorney is really specific only to decisions regarding treatment for you in the case of your
Okay.
incapacitation. For example, if John is on life support,
Okay.
all right, and the
Okay.
doctors are saying, you know, he may make it if we do a specific surgery, all right, the person who has your health care power of attorney will determine whether or not that surgery is something that they need to move forward with.
Gotcha.
So it's important to understand the definitions of all of these terms when we're trying to put things in place, because one thing does one thing, something else does something else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And most of the time, and I'm glad you asked that question, because a lot of times people confuse a DNR, which is a do not resuscitate order, with a healthcare power of attorney. They're completely separate
Absolutely.
documents.
Yeah, because I would have thought the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a
Absolutely.
good point. Okay.
And so it's important that we assess what our final wishes are, put those things in place, either through a power of attorney giving someone access to our documents, or we're putting things together in a living will. And a
Okay.
living will outlines what we want to happen in the case of our incapacitation.
And how long does it take for a living will?
10 minutes.
10 minutes?
10 minutes.
10 minutes,
minutes.
guys. Wow.
10 whole minutes.
Amazing.
Absolutely. So a lot
That's
of
nothing.
it's nothing. 10 minutes out of my life can save heartache and grief from my loved ones.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we want to make sure that we're putting things in place. One of the things that we want to make sure that we're looking at when we're putting together an estate plan is we want to make sure we actually have an accurate list of all of our assets.
Okay.
Okay. So when I have a basic checklist.
Okay.
So we identify our property in 4 major categories, actually 4. So we're going to talk about real property, we're going to talk about personal property, we're going to talk about accounts and investments, we're going to talk about retirement accounts.
Okay.
All right. So real property is anything like jewelry, artwork, furniture, appliances, heirlooms, vehicles. But then when we look at real property, that's our personal residence, our investment properties that we may have, or even our businesses, right? We look at accounts. We're looking at checking accounts, savings accounts, CDs, stocks, bonds. And then we're looking at retirement accounts. Those are our 401ks, our 403bs,
Okay.
our pensions,
Okay.
our individual retirement accounts, those types of things. We want to also, because we live in an era where digital estates now exist. That's
Yes,
our
it
social
does.
media accounts.
Yes.
Our online banking, our
Yeah,
photo
wow.
sharing documents. We want to make sure that we're including those in that as well.
Yes.
All right.
That's good.
So to kind of bundle it all up, we want to just look at it from 2 different perspectives.
Okay.
All right. So at a minimum, our estate should contain 3 goals. All right?
Okay.
The goal should be to identify our property. It should be to instruct the transference of that property and to name agents to make decisions when we are unable to make them for ourselves. That should be the goal of
Okay.
anyone who is sitting down to plan their estate.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
4 legal documents will help you navigate you through those 3 goals.
Okay.
Those can be either a will and or a living trust, a power of attorney for our property, which is really a general power of attorney, and a power of attorney for health care needs as well.
Okay. Okay.
And so when we tie up all of those documents into a bundle, so to speak, it creates our estate plan.
Looking for a church home? Looking for hope? Are you looking for love? Looking for a change? Well, Love Deliverance Outreach is the place to be. And if you're not able to make it this Sunday, well, sow a seed. Our Cash App is 404-457-0414. But if you're able to join us, we're located at 152 Longview Road, Fayetteville, Georgia. We would love to hear from you soon.
Okay.
All right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let me ask you this: with the bundle, where will we put all of this?
So I would suggest we make hard copies of original documents.
Okay.
So For instance, if I am doing a will for someone, I'll print out 4 copies.
Okay, and these are originals.
These are original copies.
Okay.
And I would have them sign in blue ink on each of those documents.
Now, what's up with the blue ink? I've heard people talk about blue ink pen.
Because when you make copies of it, if you make a color copy of blue ink, it comes out blue. So they know that it's an original.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
If you sign in black and you make a copy, it comes out in black, so they can't tell whether or not the document was original.
Got it.
So that's a little hack.
Yes.
That's a little hack.
Thank you.
But going back to your original question,
Yes.
So we'll make 4 copies.
Yes.
One will go to the client, which would be the person making the decisions at the time, who's putting their estate together.
Yes.
I would suggest if there's a medical power of attorney or a living will or a DNR on file, if we're doing those as well in the bundle, I would suggest that they give that to their primary care doctor as well.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Then we want to make sure that the estate administrator has one. So if we have a will, you're going to need an executor of your estate. We'll want to make sure that that person has a copy. And then the 4th copy, you'll want to make sure that you put in either a safe deposit box or you'll want to put it in your home safe, just so someone can have access to original documents that may not have originally gotten a copy.
Awesome. That's
right.
good. That's good information.
So I want to go back a little bit and just kind of clarify the difference between a living will and a power of attorney specific to healthcare.
Okay.
So a living will basically outlines what I want to happen in the cases where I may not necessarily be able to speak for myself. It's really a document that allows you to make known your wishes for life-sustaining measurements.
Okay.
All right. Whether or not I want to be on a life support system, whether or not I want to live in a vegetative state. Those are the things that you're going to include in the living will. On the flip side of that, when we're looking at a healthcare power of attorney, that's just you giving someone else the authority, so to speak, to make those decisions for you because you don't have a living will. You don't want to have to make those decisions, but there's someone that you trust enough to make that
the right choice.
The right choice. So, and I'll give you an example. So, in my estate planning, my mother has my healthcare power of attorney. She doesn't have a general power of attorney that gives her access to make decisions about my estate. She can only make choices with regards to my health care.
Okay.
Right? So we want to make sure that, and when we're doing these things, we don't necessarily have to have the power of attorney for all of these things going to the same person.
Okay.
Right? So my health care power of attorney holder is not the same person who has my general health care power of attorney.
Wow.
And so we want to make sure that we're meticulous in choosing those individuals.
Absolutely.
Right? I don't want anybody making healthcare choices for me who don't have a background in healthcare. My mother does. She's going to understand the jargon that the doctors are speaking. And so she can make an informed decision.
And then too, I'm thinking about what you said. That's really good.
Absolutely.
And then, but you want someone to have your best interests.
Absolutely. So when you're looking at a general power of attorney, that person has the authority to be able to identify in your incapacitated state financial choices for you. If you don't have a will in place, well, let's even say if you're incapacitated and you haven't passed away, but there are financial choices that need to be made. Your will doesn't activate until you pass away. So if you have a general power of attorney and someone has access to that because you've given them authority, they can make choices about your bank accounts, your retirements, all of those things. So you want to make sure it's somebody you trust.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So if there's nothing else that I leave your viewers with, the one thing that I want to stress is to make sure that we put things in place for our final wishes. All right. We don't want our loved ones to have to make choices for us that would increase their amount of grief. They're already grieving your incapacitated state.
You're right.
They're already grieving, your their loss.
Yeah.
All right. And we don't want to add an undue burden to them. And so if we really love and care about them, we're going to take care of these things ahead of time when we're in our good frame of mind so that we can put our wishes in place and no one else has to make that decision for us.
Well, Dr. Gilbert, what would you say
Yes.
to the audience and the people that said, I don't want to talk about it?
Absolutely.
Because they're there. I
They're
don't want
there.
to talk
They're there.
about it.
Absolutely.
I'm private. I don't want nobody to know
Absolutely.
my business.
Absolutely.
What do you do?
I would encourage them to really think about the choices that they're making. Number
Y'all hear
one,
this?
choices, mindsets.
Yes,
Right? If
yes.
you really love your children, your spouse, your siblings, your parents, you don't want them to have to make those hard calls.
Yes.
All right? And so it takes 10 minutes to put together some documents that can alleviate
Yes.
the added burdens. All right?
Yes.
Even if it means you've got to have the documents drawn up and just give it to them for them to sign. We want to put things in place. If you really care about someone, you shouldn't want to add extra burdens to them in their time of loss or grief.
I agree.
We don't want to do that.
I agree. And this is an opportunity
Absolutely.
today to let's change our mindset.
Absolutely.
Let's elevate to be better. Like you said,
Absolutely.
the key word, if you love. If you love
Absolutely.
your loved ones, you love those that's around you, then
Absolutely.
take what you said, 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
That's all it takes, 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Dr. Gilbert, tell us how they can reach you, get in touch with you, because somebody need a living will. Stop procrastinating.
Stop it.
Stop it today, right now.
Absolutely.
So how can they reach you?
You can reach me on Instagram at I am Dr. Sheila Gilbert. You can reach me on Facebook at Dr. Sheila Gilbert. And you can reach me at drsheilagilbert.com.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I am super excited. This has been so educational. You gave us a lot of great, great nuggets. And I'm going to encourage the audience to even go back and re-look at this again.
Absolutely.
You know, because at the end of the day, you want to make the right choices.
Absolutely.
And if you have not done this, stop procrastinating.
Right.
Make a conscious decision. I love my family. I'm going to do better. I'm going to show them in case of. Because life is life, and the math ain't always mathing, and we want to do what we need
Absolutely.
to do to make it easier. So thank you again. Thank you so much.
Yes.
We're definitely going to have you back on because this was some great information, and I know you have some other things that you could share with us. So
Absolutely.
we're super excited. Thank you again. So there it is, guys. Come on, stop procrastinating. Make it happen. Whew. So thank you for sharing, being here with us on Embracing Love Again. We are here to inspire, to inform, to enlighten, and educate. Understand this. What you don't change today, your tomorrow will be the same. So let's make a change. And you can make a change right now by subscribing to our channel. Subscribe, like, hit that notification bell that you will always know that we're on. Also, we're having our first annual meet and greet in the ATL, July the 20th. Go to Eventbrite and get your ticket. If you're coming to the ATL and need a room, we will DM me and we will make that happen for you with a really, really good rate. So thank you for joining us on what? Embracing Love Again. Thank you.
Hello again. I am super excited to invite you all out to our first meet and greet for Embracing Love Again. You do not want to miss it. We will have a beautiful location, a romantic area, so you can find love again. Please hit the link below and register. We would love to have you. I want to meet you. I am very much interested in meeting you. Thank you. Remember, if you want to win it, you gotta get in it. Embracing Love Again.